In the last 5 centuries, hundreds of ships, countless aircraft, and thousands of souls have simply vanished into thin air, leaving behind not a single trace. Welcome to the Bermuda Triangle, or, as the terrified sailors call it, the Devil's Triangle. Stretching between the points of Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico, this mysterious expanse defies every law of nature. Despite decades of exhaustive research, the greatest minds in science remain utterly defeated by its invisible grip. So, what exactly is happening out there? Is it a dark, supernatural force, an alien gateway, a calculated government conspiracy, or just a haunting myth? Long before the modern era, the mystery of the triangle whispered from the annals of history. In 1492, as Christopher Columbus navigated the uncharted Atlantic on his flagship, the Santa Maria, he unwittingly sailed into the heart of this region. His logbooks record a night of terror. He described brilliant streaks of light crashing into the sea, and, most disturbingly, his compasses beginning to behave erratically. The needle, which had been his only guide across the abyss, spun in circles, as if pulled by an invisible magnetic force. Columbus and his crew were witness to phenomena that defied the navigation logic of the 15th century. Was this merely an encounter with atmospheric conditions? Or did Columbus brush against a boundary where the laws of nature began to unravel? This ancient, chilling account remains the first recorded shadow in the history of the Devil's Triangle. December 5th, 1945. 5 Avenger torpedo bombers took off from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, on a routine navigation exercise. Their mission: head east over the Bahamas, perform practice bombing runs, and return. But mid-flight, leader Charles Taylor's compasses failed. He became convinced they were over the Florida Keys, while in reality, they had drifted far into the deep Atlantic. With the sky and sea blending into a seamless blue, the pilots fell into a state of spatial disorientation. They were trapped, not just in the air, but in a psychological and geographical labyrinth. Even the ocean doesn't look like it should. As Taylor desperately ordered a turn to the north, his crew became hopelessly split in their navigation. The last chilling message echoed through the command base: "We are entering white water. We are completely lost." Then, silence. In a matter of minutes, 5 trained crews and 14 pilots vanished into the void, leaving not a trace behind. To save Flight 19, a massive PBM Mariner rescue flying boat was deployed. It was a rugged flying tank, designed to handle the harshest storms. It flew directly toward the last known coordinates, a region of the Bermuda Triangle notorious for its unpredictability. Yet, shortly after takeoff, this massive rescue craft also vanished from the radar, without a single distress signal. Witnesses reported seeing a flash of light, but no wreckage, no oil slicks, and no survivors were ever found. The rescuers themselves had been swallowed by the same abyss. The next day, 350 ships and planes scoured thousands of miles of ocean. The result? Nothing. Not a wing, not a life raft. While official government reports blamed pilot error, they failed to explain why such experienced aviators were so utterly baffled, or how a massive rescue plane simply evaporated. Is this a localized magnetic anomaly? A weather phenomenon beyond our understanding? Or a gateway into the unknown? The disappearance of Flight 19 remains the greatest mystery of the sea, buried forever in an icy, silent grave. March 1918. In the midst of World War I, the USS Cyclops, a massive 550-foot collier, departed Brazil, bound for Baltimore, Maryland. She carried a heavy load of manganese ore and 306 souls, commanded by Lieutenant Commander George W. Worley. On March 4th, after a brief stop in Barbados, the ship entered the treacherous waters of the Bermuda Triangle. The weather was clear, the seas were calm, and there was absolutely no sign of a storm. Yet, in the blink of an eye, the Leviathan vanished. No SOS signal was ever sent. No distress call echoed through the airwaves. One moment, a mountain of steel was carving a path through the Atlantic. The next, it was gone. How does a vessel of that scale, with over 300 men on board, simply cease to exist without leaving a single trace? When the Cyclops failed to reach port, a frantic, massive search operation was launched. The U.S. Navy scoured every inch of the route. They looked for enemy U-boats. But Germany confirmed they were nowhere near the ship. They looked for storm wreckage, but found nothing. Not a splinter of wood, not a life jacket, not even an oil slick. It was as if the ocean had simply opened its mouth and swallowed them whole. President Woodrow Wilson famously declared, "Only God and the sea know what happened to the great ship." Over a century later, the disappearance of the USS Cyclops remains the single largest loss of life in U.S. naval history, not involving direct combat. Was it a freak wave? A structural collapse? Or did they stumble into a spatial anomaly that defies the laws of physics? The Cyclops remains a ghost of the deep, its fate forever guarded by the silence of the abyss. February 2nd, 1963. The SS Marine Sulphur Queen, a massive 15,000-ton tanker laden with molten sulfur, departed Beaumont, Texas, bound for Norfolk, Virginia. At the helm was the seasoned Captain Robert B. Minner, leading a crew of 39 men. As they navigated the unforgiving waters of the Florida Straits, the gateway to the Bermuda Triangle, everything seemed routine. But on the morning of February 4th, the impossible happened. Without a single distress call, without a word of warning, and amidst perfectly calm weather, the massive vessel simply vanished from the radar. No SOS, no frantic radio transmissions, no evidence of fire. One moment, a mountain of steel was slicing through the Atlantic. The next, it had dissolved into nothingness. How does a ship of that magnitude, carrying such a heavy load, disappear without leaving a ripple behind? The following day, February 5th, a massive search and rescue operation was launched. The U.S. Coast Guard and the Navy scoured thousands of square miles of ocean. They found nothing. No lifeboats, no debris, no oil slicks, no sign of life. After 19 days of agonizing searching, only a few scattered, charred fragments were found, drifted miles away from where the ship should have been. Official reports lazily blamed structural failure, yet these reports could never explain the absolute silence of the crew or the total absence of the ship's main wreckage. Captain and his 39 men were never seen again. Was it a freak explosion? Or did they sail directly into a phenomenon that defies human logic? Decades later, the SS Marine Sulphur Queen remains one of the most haunting ghosts of the Devil's Triangle. A ship that exists now, only in the silence of the deep. When science cannot provide an answer, human imagination fills the void. To many, this expanse is a cursed threshold, where the restless spirits of the thousands who have perished remain trapped, waiting to pull the living into their silence. Others whisper of the sunken city of Atlantis, believing that the ruins of that hyper-advanced civilization lie beneath the waves, still emitting energy that scrambles our machines. Some are convinced this is an underwater stargate, a gateway connecting our world to dimensions beyond our reach. Others speculate on shadowy government agendas, dark experiments meant to manipulate the very fabric of time. We link these theories to the chilling silence of the lost. We see the ghost ships, not as accidents, but as signs of something deliberate. These aren't just stories. They are the manifestations of our deepest, most primal fears, and our insatiable hunger to know what lies behind the veil of the unknown. But what does the cold, analytical eye of science reveal? If we look at the data from Lloyd's of London and the US Coast Guard, the answer is a resounding no. Statistically, the rate of accidents here is no higher than in any other comparable stretch of ocean. Science classifies the triangle as a myth, born of misunderstanding. Experts attribute these disappearances to brutal tropical storms, rapid Gulf Stream currents, and simple human error. Research points to rogue waves, massive, spontaneous walls of water that can capsize even large vessels in seconds, and the release of methane gas hydrates from the seafloor. Psychology explains our obsession through apophenia, our brain's desperate need to find patterns in chaotic events. We suffer from confirmation bias, remembering every mystery, while ignoring the thousands of ships that cross the region safely every day. In our modern age of satellite surveillance, mysterious disappearances have effectively vanished. Reflecting on the Bermuda Triangle, we find a haunting blend of human tragedy and folklore. While the stories of Columbus, Flight 19, and the USS Cyclops are heartbreaking, they belong to a bygone era of navigation. Science has stripped away the supernatural, revealing the harsh realities of the Atlantic. Yet, the allure remains. It reminds us of a time when the world felt larger, more mysterious, and unmapped. Whether we see it as a collection of accidents or a piece of modern mythology, its story continues to captivate us. Some mysteries aren't meant to be solved, but to be remembered. They serve as markers of our journey, from fear to understanding.